Hello everyone, and thank you so much for tuning into this YouTube video. And right off the hop, if you guys have not subscribed to my channel, if you would be oh so kind to please subscribe so you can get that little ding dong so that you can get updated whenever I have new content just like this that is dropping on my channel. On to the show. Here we are, you guys. We are in part 2 of my awakening journey, and part 2 of my awakening journey is titled Health Issues. So as I mentioned in the previous video that launched last week, that over the course of the next 6 videos, I was going to be bringing you into the details of my awakening journey, into some key events, key experiences, key moments, as well as key relationships that help shape me to move on this path of awakening to this point now and at the end of 2024 when this content is being released, and I'm now a spiritual teacher, and just how I got to the place that I am, and just some of these key experiences that molded my spiritual awakening year after year. So we left off the last video, part 1, which was early spiritual beginnings in my first spiritual awakening, or some of the experiences that began to sort of get those spiritual wheels turning. So in terms of the timeline, we begin here, right at the end of 2016. And this video, sort of the timeline is going to be from about the end of 2016 until about halfway through 2018. So the end of 2016, I was in that relationship with that born-again Christian girl. We split up. Right at basically the time that we're splitting up, I had made this movie that ended up winning a few different awards down in LA. And so I move into 2017 with my sole focus basically being comedy and film. I had made my first ever short film the end of 2016 when I was 29. And so moving into 2017, I turned 30, and my focus is now pursuing a career in film and comedy. I want to make sketches. I want to, study comedy writing. I want to get on stage and do different things on stage. I want to make more short films, all these sort of pieces. And basically at this point, sort of in my journey of 2017, I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep, and I was in Toronto, and I'm going to keep pursuing film and comedy for maybe the next couple years in Toronto. And then the plan was always to move down to LA to basically pursue a career as a screenwriter, a comedy writer, and a filmmaker. Sort of those 3 things. I never really saw myself as an actor, even though I always did act in my own things, but acting was always probably at the back of the forefront of things that I wanted to focus on. I wanted to ultimately be a creator. So at this point in 2017, I was working as a content manager for a real estate company, and basically all I did for the company was make comedy videos. Basically, I wrote some blogs about some real estate shit, and then apart from that, all I was doing was making comedy videos. I was making different, sketches and videos of the company, different sort of advertising videos, kind of weird little quirky commercials, creating sort of a weekly vlog for the company. And I was just falling in love more and more. This is where I really refined my editing chops, and I became a really, really good film editor. When I was working at this company, I was able to have all this crazy amounts of footage. And then in the edit, I was able to find the story. And I was, always a writer, sort of storyteller first, but then doing all this editing, I was like, oh, like I love editing as well. And so I just was falling in love deeper and deeper with comedy, film, the creative process. So I was coming into 2017, I was working at this real estate company, basically just getting to make comedy videos all the time. And this is what made it really, really clear for me that my future was in filmmaking. My future was in as a content creator, as a comedy writer, as a film, just all these sort of creative processes. So that was the plan. And I eventually quit this real estate company, and I wanted to go back into just waiting tables to serving, because I was like, I need to go full into this film comedy stuff. And I was at the time working at this real estate company, working 40 hours a week at a 9 to 5. It was basically taking up too much of my time. And so I wanted to go back to what most artists do is that they're working, waiting tables, and they're going to auditions, and they're making shit with their friends and trying to get into film festivals. So I went back into sort of the serving industry. So this is about spring 2017. Moving into the summer of 2017, I went on antibiotics. So I had to go on a round of antibiotics because I was sick and I had an infection. And so I go on this round of antibiotics, right? At the time, I didn't really think of anything of it. 2017, everything was great with my health. Everything was amazing with my stomach. And then, so all of 2017, I'm still pursuing comedy. I'm working part-time, waiting tables, serving. I'm 30 at this point. Not even thinking anything of spirituality or self-development or being a spiritual. That's not even on my fucking radar at this point. So take the antibiotics, summer of 2017. Moving into the fall of 2017, I start feeling really off. My stomach, there's a lot of issues in my stomach. Had a lot of experiences where your stomach sort of balloons out, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I start to get a lot of head congestion. I start to have no energy. It starts to get to the point where it's difficult to get out of bed. And when I get out of bed, all I need to do is sort of sleep. And so fall of 2017, did antibiotics in the summer, and move into the fall, and I have all these sinus infections, and moving slowly towards the end of 2017, it keeps getting worse and worse. It keeps getting worse and worse, and I'm like, what's going on? So, constant visits to the doctor, doing, different sort of nasal washes, different things of talking about what's going on in my stomach, this congestion. My emotionally, it starts to plummet, where I start to go into like a little bit of a depression, start to have this like crazy amount of grief and sadness that's not able to move, because like I haven't done any nervous system work or any embodiment work. So I definitely had a horrible relationship with grief and sadness, and I wasn't able to process it. Coming from an imprint of being a hypochondriac, I remember there were so many times where like my right, and I was also having issues with my back a lot. So I have a lot of issues with my back. I have degenerative disc disease, which means the discs in my back are degenerating faster than the average person. I have spinal stenosis. I found these things out later. I didn't know them at the time, the genesis here in 2017. But so I started have all these disc issues and these nerve issues, as well as all these health issues. Everything's just fucking falling apart. I remember different times where like my dick would go numb, my balls would go numb. And I was like, what the fuck is going on, right? Because it's the compression in the disc. And I was a runner. I was always running. And so I was constantly at the chiropractor and the physio doing spinal decompression to try to work with my discs. I had different herniated discs, and so all these sort of issues. And I'd had these back issues since I was 25. But now in 2017, in the fall, I'm 30 years old, and it's finally beginning to catch up to me. All the wear and tear of being a former marathon runner, all these different things. I remember one time I was having this crazy right ball pain, like in my testicle. And so I go into the doctor, right, make an appointment. I'm like, doc, I got testicular cancer. And she's like, okay, well, what are your symptoms? Like, my right testicle is fucking throbbing. And she's like, well, that's not usually a symptom of testicular cancer. Do you have any lumps? Have you been feeling around in that area? I was like, no, I don't have any lumps, but my right testicle fucking hurts. I have testicular cancer. My crazy hypochondriac brain was like, I must have testicular cancer if my whole right ball was hurting. And, I get a checkup by her, and she said, yeah, I don't feel any lumps. I don't think you have testicular cancer. End up going to get a scan, an ultrasound, whatever it is. Everything was fine. But when I was in the doctor's office, this is my crazy fucking brain, in this sort of hypochondriac meltdown, I came up for an idea for a screenplay about a guy that gets testicular cancer called All You Need Is One. This is literally coming up when I'm in the doctor's office. It's about a guy that has to get a testicle removed. He comes from a very feminine family. His dad left when he was young. He has a crazy mother and grandmother played by Elaine from Seinfeld. and also Lily Tomlin. They're like my grandmother, my mother. We go on a road trip to bury the testicle in the cemetery where my dad's buried. And I have like a Seth Rogen best friends. Like, what are you going to get, a titanium ball? And I was a comedy writer, and I'm wrestling with my masculinity because I always sort of felt my feminine. Now a ball is going to be removed because me and I have less testosterone, and they throw me a last night with two testicle parties, and just this crazy sort of this dramedy was coming to my head, and this shows my crazy creative brain. And I was like telling the doctor, like Doc, you got to shut up for a second. I'm getting some really fucking good ideas here. And this came right as I figured out that, okay, this wasn't actually cancer. And that just shows my crazy brain. But this is just to show the point that I was beginning to spin out. My hypochondria was starting to go crazy. And all these health issues were coming. And I had this crazy congestion in my head. And I've now since learned, this is the end of 2017, before I started doing any work on myself, this was my ancestors showing up. Because when you get crazy head congestion, that's all about ancestral energy that is entering your body. It's all about ancestral energy that's entering your body, but it was not able to move. So basically, all this ancestral energy compressed into my head, creating this sinus congestion, creating the exhaustion, the fatigue. Also, I had mold in my building. There was black mold. My discs in my back were beginning to be compressed, and I wasn't really able to exercise, and I was having to do all this different therapy for my back, and my balls and dick was going numb, and shit was chaos. And I was like, what's wrong with me? My stomach, I never issues with my stomach. Now I was like constipated, and I was constantly going to the doctor and sleeping all the time. And I was bedridden for months, starting to get sort of depressed and all these different things. And I was like, what is going on? And I remember at the end of 2017, around Christmas time, just being so emotionally distraught, where it was the first time where I was like really beginning to access some really, really dark emotions that I really didn't know what to do with, right? I was like, I'm going to pursue comedy, film, all these things. But then I had so many issues with my back, the black mold, and what happened was the antibiotics created candida and created parasites in my stomach, which obviously the gut-brain sort of combination created congestion. So it's a combination of these antibiotics that fucked up my gut, which basically downfalled my overall health, functional health, candida, inflammation in your gut, leaky gut, all these different things. That's where it started, from those antibiotics in the summer of 2017. And I'm still now, the end of 2024, healing my health in functional ways. Like, nothing has ever been seriously wrong. And as I get into more of this awakening journey, I'll tell you more about the different health stuff, but that is where it started. The summer of 2017 with those antibiotics. I'm going to pursue this career in film. And then Spirit was like, hold my fucking beer. All this dark emotion energy was coming into my space that I really had absolutely no idea what to do with. Crazy congestion, crazy exhaustion. And so at this point, it's the end of 2017, moving into 2018. And so we're moving into 2018, and right at the point of 2017 moving into 2018, I start talking to this woman who lives in Vancouver, who ends up being, she's a relationship coach. She's been in the industry at that point for almost 10 years, 7 or 8 years. And she says to me, she's like, because she started following my Instagram, she's like, I really like your writing, because at that point I was like a relationship blogger. I wrote for a bunch of other men's magazines. And so I was really interested in sort of the writing about relationship, but she's like, you should become a coach, because she was a coach. And I was like, what? Like what the fuck is that? This is early 2018. I'm living in Toronto. She's living in Vancouver. And so we start talking, just texting. And she starts telling me about this industry, that you can be a coach, you can be a relationship coach. Oh yeah, like I have a relationship business where I help people in relationships, and I sell courses. And so this is early 2018, after I'm in the midst of these health issues, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And starts telling me about the type of lifestyle that you can have and working for yourself and being able to help people. And so I always had this sort of thing that I was doing on my Instagram, just sort of writing about relationships, making quotes, writing captions, just more as like a blog or a creative expression. And just as a writer, so as a blogger or a writer. And so she started to introduce me to this other world, just as we're talking. And so at this point in 2018, I'm going in the midst of all these health issues. I don't know, my back's fucked, my stomach's fucked. I start to have this crazy sinus congestion, this crazy just congestion in my head. My health is floundering. I'm making comedy videos. I'm serving. I'm waiting tables. I'm doing all that, and kind of talking to this woman more and more, and kind of learning about this sort of world of self-development. I didn't even know what fucking self-development was, and it was kind of after talking to her, she's like, I was telling her like how I was thinking. She said, "Oh yeah, you're going through a spiritual awakening." I was like, what? Oh shit, is that what this is? And as soon as she said that, something clicked, and I was like, I am going through a spiritual awakening. Just things sounded different. The way I looked at the world felt different all of a sudden. I was seeing things different, and the wheels were turning. Again, this goes all the way back to the end of that relationship, 2015 and 2016. Toxic relationship, born again Christian. Now this is 2018, so this is like 2.5 years later that it finally clicks that I'm going through my first spiritual awakening. And I talk about how a spiritual awakening and a spiritual initiation are different. My spiritual initiation came later in 2021, which I'll get into. But 2018, I'm like, oh, and I have a tattoo that's 2018 that shows right here. That was basically the first conscious sort of spiritual awakening. And it came after all these issues with my back and all these health issues. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to move to LA, become a comedy writer, maybe want to write for a TV show or make my own sort of content, or try to pursue being a screenwriter, whatever that sort of looked like. And then Spirit was like, I got other plans for you. Antibiotics, health issues, black mold, back issues. Planted this woman who's in this space who's like, you should become a coach, and opened up this whole other world. And so 2018 was really my first spiritual awakening. It was a very transitionary year where me and this woman ended up, by about summer, she ended up coming to visit me in Toronto. I was not in my fucking masculine at that point in time. And she comes to visit me in Toronto, and we begin a romantic relationship about summer 2018. She was a successful relationship coach, had been in this industry for 7-8 years. And so if it wasn't for her, I would have never even begun this journey, right? So the toxic relationship, born again Christian, then this woman who lived in Vancouver, who was a beautiful soul, like beautiful person. And so we get in this romantic relationship, summer 2018, and she kind of shows me this whole new world, right? And already at that point in time, I knew that Toronto is not my be-all, end-all, but I thought I was going to go Toronto to LA, pursue film, show business, entertainment, comedy, all those things. But then what ended up happening, as I was talking to this woman more and more, we're becoming closer. And, I made a trip out to Vancouver at some point, met sort of this conscious community in Vancouver, which is where I'm from, which is where I live now. And so the wheels started to get turning. And as I moved more into my spirituality and these health issues were really, really picking up, I was like, I knew Toronto was not my place, right? I thought I was going to go Toronto to LA, but then I'm like, maybe what spirits tell me is that I move back to Vancouver, right? A lot of times when we think of coming into our spirituality, a lot of it is moving back home to heal things at home, right? Where that's a lot of like spiritual teachers are like, you need to go home and sort of heal your inner child or heal the mother wound, father wound. So it was kind of this idea. And then Vancouver was just a much better place. Moving into your 30s, not being your 20s anymore, becoming more spiritually inclined. There's more nature. there's more outdoors. It's calmer. Toronto's like this big, all you do is like go for dinner and get drunk and party and this concrete jungle and loud and noise. And so I made the decision by summer 2018 that I'm going to move back to Vancouver. And so I moved back to Vancouver October 2018, which is 6 years ago. And I actually just went to Toronto for the first time since I left 6 years ago, a few weeks ago. First time kind of going back, which was very nostalgic, see all the old places you live. But so now this takes us to October 2018, where I moved back to Vancouver. And I'm partly just that it felt more aligned for me, and partly to be able to explore this relationship with this woman who she was from Alberta, but she was now living in Vancouver. She was really kind of tied into and tapped into this conscious community. I was like, what the fuck is conscious community? Like all these people do work on themselves. I'm like, because I came from a place with just like hanging around a bunch of like partiers, hospitality industry people and artists and like comedians and actors and writers and filmmakers and people pursuing just artists, right? Which are so different than people who were conscious and coaches and self-development. And I always thought, right, I was going to go to Toronto, move to LA, become this like famous fucking writer in LA or whatever. And Spirit had other ideas. It's like, Jamie, I guess you're fucking going to become a coach. I guess you're going to have all these health issues that you're going to have to work through, black mold, back issues. And so Spirit basically intervened. And so in the end of 2017, which is crazy looking back on it, this is actually where my spirituality was trying to become embodied, but it wasn't able to move, right? So much of what I teach actually dropped into my body in the fall of 2017, which is 7 years ago. All the congestion in the head, the ancestral energy, I was basically accessing all of this ancestral energy before I had any nervous system capacity or any emotional capacity or any sort of somatic embodiment for the energy to move. So it basically gridlocked. It gridlocked, which is why it manifested in all these health issues, leaky gut, parasites in my stomach, candida, gut, brain health, all kind of effed up, right? So much congestion, exhaustion. And so Spirit basically intervened from me going down this path of pursuing comedy and film and going from Toronto to LA and pursuing that path. And Spirit's like, no, Jamie, you have to go down this path, this self-development, this coaching, this healing path to heal yourself and eventually learn to work with other people, to eventually become a spiritual teacher. And just to bring you to where I'm at now, I'm basically at the point where my sort of healer and my spiritual teacher are literally now merging with that artist part of me all the way back into 2016, 2017, 2018. Because I've kind of just been so in this sort of self-development, spiritual healing space, refining my sort of mastery as a healer and a teacher and working with people and beginning to learn this space and doing so much different healing work on myself and going through all this to now where my teacher and my healer can merge with my artist and my comedian. So they're now here at the end of the fall of 2024. It's basically now come a full circle. But at this point in the story, we're in fall of 2018, 6 years ago, when I moved from Toronto back to my hometown, Vancouver, pursue this relationship with this woman in the self-development space. And it's basically my journey now, which is going to now shift into the next video of me entering the self-development space, me entering conscious community, me becoming a coach, me starting off becoming, because where I started was a life coach and a relationship coach. And in a lot of ways, which this woman was sort of my mentor, which is why polarity dynamics were fucked up in our relationship, right? Where she was kind of my quasi-mentor, but I'm so fucking grateful for her, because if it were not for her, I would have never probably moved back to Vancouver. I would have never entered this space. And really, that was sort of the beginning, 2018, of my healing journey with my health, beginning to really do deep work on myself, look at all my shit, therapy, working with different healers, like introducing me to the self-development healing world, which, while I fucking love filmmaking and comedy and artistry, I also love healing and spirituality and growth and self. Like I love those. I love both those things, and now so much of it is merging those two pieces for me. But that's sort of where it all began, and so that's part two, health issues in my awakening journey, which starts at the end of 2016 all the way to basically the fall towards the end of 2018. So this sort of 2-year span where issues with my back, black mold, health issues, leaky gut, candida, started with antibiotics, gut's fucked. I'm in bed for months. I can't even move. I don't want to do anything. And what I since learned and looking back on it now in hindsight and retrospect, it was basically spirit intervening and saying, no, you're not going to pursue entertainment. And it started with that born-again Christian woman who planted a seed of God, where it was like, do I really want to pursue entertainment? It felt a little trivial. Like there was a depth to me. And so spirit intervened with these health issues, black mold, my spiritual awakening, this woman being like, oh my God, Jimmy, you're going through a spiritual awakening, to the point where I was 2018 full-blown in a spiritual awakening. Full blown into a spiritual awakening. And my fear of moving back to Vancouver was that all the people I knew there were people that I grew up with, right? Who were in a different world, who were working very traditional jobs. And I was pursuing this very different path as a artist and a writer and comedian. And then at this point now as a coach and a healer and a teacher, which was just so different than anyone back in Vancouver was doing. But spirit said to me, that there's more depth to you, Jamie, than you just being in entertainment. And I realized that I had to go down this massive healing journey so that depth, that oracle, that shaman in me can merge with my artist, which has now fully come around. And it was a 6-year sort of healing journey for me until I could finally bring both back. But spirit told me there's more depth to you. You're not meant to go Toronto to LA. You're meant to go down this different path, Jamie, where you have to explore this, build this, go down this for a while. And at the time, I just sort of thought that the artistry parts of me were sort of done. And I was like, well, I guess spirit's telling me I'm supposed to become a coach. And so that was kind of it. And then as I went along in the coaching industry, which I'll get into, I realized that I couldn't not be an artist, and I was always an artist. And I realized that I was meant to do both and bring them both back together. But that was spirit telling me that I was meant to do something different than just be in show business or just be in entertainment or just be an artist. There was so much more. And that's why the health issues came. It was the ancestral energy. My ancestors fucking showing up, trying to move through me, but I didn't have any of the skills or the capacity for that process to begin at that point. But yeah, so that's my awakening journey, part two, health issues, now taking us on the timeline of fall 2018 when I moved back from Toronto to Vancouver. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and please tune in for part 3 of my awakening journey, which is going to be Jamie enters the self-development space and becomes a coach. So that's what's coming up in the next video, and we'll see you there. Hello everyone, and thank you so much for watching my latest YouTube video. If you enjoyed this video, I have lots of other related YouTube content that might percolate your interest off to the right side of the screen. And if you would be so inclined to like, comment, and share this video with a friend, and of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel.